Do you know the scariest thing about a pathological liar? It's not that they lie to you. It's that they lie so much that they eventually believe their own lies. Think about it for a moment. Most of us have lied at least once in our lives. A harmless lie to avoid hurting someone. A small lie to get out of an awkward situation. But pathological liars are different. For them, lying is no longer a tool. It becomes a habit, like breathing, like blinking. Sometimes they even lie about things that would be much easier to tell the truth. And that's why dealing with this type of person is so exhausting for many people. There's something quite funny about it. When we discover someone is lying, our first reaction is usually to try to get them to admit the truth. We present evidence, we ask questions, we point out inconsistencies. We believe that with enough logic, patience, and intelligence, they will eventually look at us, sigh, and say, "Okay, you're right." Unfortunately, life isn't a Hollywood movie. With a pathological liar, evidence often doesn't end the argument. It only starts a new lie. You point out an inconsistency. They create a different story. You discover another false detail. They add another detail to patch the loophole. It feels like playing whack-a-mole at an amusement park. You hit one, and 3 more appear. The problem is, you think you're looking for the truth, while they're just trying to avoid being caught. Psychology explains that many pathological liars don't lie just to deceive others. They lie to protect the image they want the world to see. They want to be more admired than they actually are, more successful than they actually are, more interesting than they actually are. Sometimes they tell stories that make them the victims. Sometimes they tell stories that make them feel like heroes. The common thread is that they constantly manipulate reality to serve the version of themselves they want to portray. That's why you often feel confused when dealing with them. Today they tell a story. Next week it changes. A month later it has new details. If you're patient enough to take notes, you'll eventually have a collection of plot lines far more complex than many long-running television series. Ironically, if they used that creativity to write novels, they probably would have become famous authors long ago. The biggest mistake many people make when dealing with pathological liars is thinking it's a battle of truth. It's not. It's a battle of energy. You try to prove something, they try to evade it. You want to clarify the issue. They want to maintain their image. The result is that you become increasingly exhausted, while they become increasingly adept at drawing you into an endless cycle of arguments. Stoic people understand one thing very early on. Not everyone wants the truth. Some just want the feeling of being right. And when someone has invested so much in a lie, admitting the truth is no longer simple. It means admitting that the image they've built up over the years is crumbling. That's why many liars will defend their story more fiercely than the average person can understand. Perhaps you've experienced this feeling. You know they're lying. They know they're lying. You know they know that you know. But somehow, everyone sits there continuing the conversation as if reality had just decided to take a vacation. This is the moment when many people start to lose their temper. They get angry, they argue, they try to force the other person to confess. But ironically, that's when they empower the liar. Because a pathological liar often lives off the reactions of others. The more you explain, the deeper you get drawn into their game. The more you try to prove them wrong, the more energy you expend. And ultimately, what suffers the most isn't the truth. It's your own peace of mind. That's why the most effective way to deal with a pathological liar isn't usually to become a better prosecutor. It's to become a better judge of boundaries. Many people are surprised to hear this. They think the solution should be to find more evidence, prepare more arguments, or learn to argue more sharply. But ask yourself a simple question. How many times have you won an argument with someone who doesn't care about the truth? Exactly. Almost never. Wise people don't try to fix every lie they encounter. They learn to recognize them. That's a huge difference. When you realize someone is consistently distorting the truth, the goal isn't to make them change. The goal is to adjust your level of trust. You don't need to hate them. You don't need to retaliate. You just need to stop placing unrealistic expectations on them. If a clock is always running the wrong time, you don't get angry at it every morning. You simply stop using it to tell the time. One of life's hardest lessons is accepting that not everyone will be as honest as you expect. The sooner you accept that, the less disappointed you'll be. Much of the suffering doesn't come from other people's lies. It comes from our constant expectation that they will be someone else. We cling to the version of themselves we want them to be, instead of looking at who they truly are. Marcus Aurelius once reminded us that when you wake up each morning, prepare yourself to encounter selfish, arrogant, deceitful, and ungrateful people. Not to become pessimistic, but to avoid being shocked when it happens. Because if you expect everyone to be honest, life will constantly disappoint you. But if you understand human nature, you will be much calmer when faced with such behavior. This doesn't mean you should become cold or lose faith in people. It simply means you should learn to trust wisely. Adults don't give trust just because someone says nice things. They observe actions. They observe consistency. They look at what's repeated over time. Because words can be easily manipulated, but behavior is much harder to fake. And this is perhaps the most important thing. A pathological liar might deceive you once, twice, or even many times. But they can't take away your peace of mind if you stop participating in their game. You don't need to win every argument. You don't need to prove yourself right in every situation. Sometimes the greatest victory is realizing that some fights aren't worth getting into in the first place. Ultimately, dealing with a pathological liar isn't about learning to lie better than them. Nor is it about spending your life hunting down all their lies. It's about learning to protect your own energy, trust, and peace. Because when you stop trying to change people who don't want to change, you'll have more time to build your own life. And perhaps the most thought-provoking question is, among those who have let you down, how many actually deceived you? And how many simply showed you who they were, but you didn't want to believe it?